This is Pakistan today, a frontline state in the so-called war on terror. But Pakistan is accused by its own allies of failing to fight militancy within its own borders. In this two-part series, I will travel to the tribal areas along the border with Afghanistan. It's home to Pakistan's Taliban militants, and many believe it's also the hiding place of Osama bin Laden. This is where Pakistan's desperate struggle with the militants has turned the country into a war zone. In a journey through the tribal areas, I will witness the realities of Pakistan's role in the global war on terror and the cost of that war to this country. Islamabad, Pakistan's political center and capital city. My journey starts here because it was here that I witnessed events that were to mark a turning point in Pakistan's fight with the Taliban. In the summer of 2007, I came to the Red Mosque here in the very heart of the Pakistani capital to speak to its religious leader, Abdul Ghazi, and the hundreds of militant female students that he led in the madrasa right next door. Under his guidance, hundreds of the girls had taken to the streets to take direct action against anything from popular video shops to prostitution. When I met Ghazi, I asked him what he was trying to achieve by challenging the authorities.
We are saying that we are against the system and we want a peaceful change in the country. But if they try to suppress us, it can become violent, and then we cannot guarantee that whosoever have the power, it can be Taliban, it can be whatever you name them, they will come.
The head of the girls' school, Umar Hassan, believed quite simply that the will of God was on their side.
The main thing is, what does God want from us? We do this to please our God, but the government hasn't fulfilled its duty. And when it doesn't, according to the Prophet, the responsibility should fall on religious leaders, and that is when they should take over.
They had challenged the writ of the Pakistani government and its very legitimacy in a way that people hadn't seen for years. But what I wasn't prepared for was that within days of speaking to them, the Red Mosque and the religious seminary that was here in this now barren and open ground would be turned into a war zone. Hello, Ghazi, it's Rageh. I'm okay, Ghazi. How are you? What's happening inside? I was never to see Maulana Ghazi again. In response to the assault on the Red Mosque, the Al-Qaeda website called for revenge in Pakistan.
وإننا في تنظيم القاعدة نشهد الله تعالى بأننا سنثأر لدماء مولانا عبد الرشيد غازي ومن معه من برويز ومن أعانه ولجميع الدماء الطاهرة الزكية.
Umar Hassan, the head of the girls' school, is still in Islamabad today and awaiting trial. And she's still teaching in a rented house a few streets away from the Red Mosque. Only she could tell me what happened when the army attacked.
In front of me, the girls started to fall as the army started firing and throwing gas. We did not think that this would happen and that our army would come and kill us.
But the young male students were fighting back.
What fighting? We didn't have anything to fight with. We had 14 Kalashnikovs. Nothing else, except they were chanting slogans. They were our students and sympathizers from surrounding areas who came to help.
Many students chose to leave the school. With them was Umar Hassan's husband, Maulana Abdul Aziz. She claims the army suggested he leave dressed as a woman. He did, only to be ridiculed on national television.
Maulana Aziz went out to negotiate and was arrested. It was then that I realized that we would not survive, and I decided that I would not leave the madrasa, but stay with the girls and become a martyr.
Umar Hassan, how did you manage to get out eventually from the siege?
Suddenly, we heard intensive firing from very near. Then, right in front of me, bullets hit my mother-in-law. And Ghazi Saab then shot the soldier and said to me, "As your Amir and commander, please leave." Then Hassan, my son, begged me, "Please, Mom, leave. We're going to be martyred, and at least you should be saved." As I left, I called out to my son, saying, "Be brave and die with a bullet in your chest, not your back, so that I am not ashamed in front of the Prophet."
The battle lasted for 10 days, and in the final assault, the school was devastated. The army displayed the weapons they said they found. Umar Hassan's son, Hassan, was among the dead. Ghazi was said to have been killed here, in this basement. And all that remains of the school is this empty ground. This area is just a short walk from the Red Mosque down there, but as the fighting began, we were all pushed back here, and this whole area became basically a military camp, and no one was allowed to leave. But caught in the middle were Iram and Fahim Sadar, whose house this is, and I'm just going to see if Iram is in. The violent outcome of the siege left Iram and Fahim with mixed feelings, but they soon discovered that people who had not been close to the events had a more black and white view. Fahim, do you think that the Red Mosque was really definitive, or was a defining moment in terms of everything that happened?
Okay, we're near the Red Mosque, so we look at almost every angle of the discussion. If you go outside Islamabad, they just have one thing to say. They said that the president then should have never done this. This was literally evil what he did. And that's why he lost his presidency. That's all they say. Middle classes are basically fed up with the way the government is handling things, and they're fed up with the so-called extremism on both sides.
You know, you've got the extremist Islamic militants, and who are willing to listen to nothing. And then you've got this side, this sort of Western extremism against the war on terror or whatever it's called.
And that's just
that's another extreme.
Yeah.
I think people like us are caught in the middle.
Yeah. The other thing I've sensed personally has been the growing resentment almost amongst middle classes towards Western and US policy in Pakistan in particular.
That's true. Let's see America apply those policies on America. First, let's see that. Let's see them apply those policies on Israel. Let's see that, no? Because what does America think it can do?
Ghazi lies buried in his ancestral village, far from the capital. His wife, Humaira, brought their children to visit his grave on Eid at the end of Ramadan, 1 year after his death.
The children are happy to come here because they feel near to their father. The older sons are aware of the cause that their father was martyred for, and they know that he did not bow to the cruelty of the government. But my youngest son, Hamza, is affected by what happened. And whenever he picks up pen and paper and draws pictures, it's of the Red Mosque, the fighting, and the soldiers.
The authorities would not allow Ghazi to be buried in Islamabad, but his family say that his supporters make the journey to visit his grave. And his elder son, Harun, already feels his future is decided.
When I come here, I feel that I will continue my father's mission to bring about real Islam in Pakistan. The mission is to implement Sharia because Pakistan gained independence in the name of Islam. So we have to do that.
God willing, we're ready to sacrifice our lives for Ghazi's mission. Our morale is high because inflicting cruelty doesn't suppress belief, it intensifies it. If the government had acted with love, what's going on in Pakistan would not be happening.
When my son was born, I named him Rashid Ghazi. Many others are naming their sons Ghazi. If one Ghazi is martyred, others will be born. How many Ghazis will they kill? From every house you will hear the name Ghazi. From every home, a Ghazi will be reborn.
The attack on the mosque was called Operation Silence. I think it's true to say that many in Islamabad feared the Red Mosque was out of control, and they talked about the Talibanization of the capital. But the violence of the assault came as a shock. What strikes me today is that the antics of the students were nothing compared to the violence in Pakistan since the siege. Suicide bombings have become common, and there is an uneasy feeling that nowhere is beyond the reach of the militants. Now, there is a sense that the situation has got worse, not better. For Ummah Hassan, this is a sign of God's displeasure, and her son, buried here, is a martyr.
God has changed the whole situation in Pakistan. Now there is no peace here. When innocent Muslims are killed, God takes away peace. And since the incident of the Red Mosque, there has been no peace or stability in Pakistan.
My journey now takes me from the capital to the tribal areas where militant groups were galvanized by the assault on the Red Mosque. Instead of silencing them, it provoked a new campaign that brought the war from Pakistan's frontier to its cities.
The wave that is sweeping Pakistan comes from the incident at the Red Mosque. The situation in the girls' madrasa forced them to take those actions in the name of Islam. They committed suicide in response to the government's actions.